Hello, Planet Earth. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're at IDK, my BFF Jill 730.
My BFF Jill 730.
I'm Preston L. Young, wishing you warm salutations and congratulations. As always, you've made your way to the Buffyngton Post.
You are invited!
Today I'll be taking a break from the Buffyverse because it's time to give you my thoughts on HBO's Westworld Season 1, Episode 6. It's The Adversary. Without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go.
The time has come!
Adversary was such a good episode, guys, but I want to start off by saying I'm really tired of hearing people compare Westworld to Game of Thrones. Before the show even aired, people were comparing it to Game of Thrones. They're saying, oh, it's going to be the next Game of Thrones. It's going to be the new Game of Thrones. Well, it's nothing like Game of Thrones. It's not got any of the same kind of elements to it whatsoever, unless you're going to count the ensemble cast, which I don't think this show is ever going to have the consistent ratings of Game of Thrones. I don't think it's going to have the same kind of fanfare. And I don't see a massive audience really gripping onto the show in the way that Game of Thrones has allowed for itself to be kind of accessible to the masses.
It's not going to happen.
It actually reminds me much more of a show like 6 Feet Under or The Leftovers. Westworld, it has a very high concept, but at the same time, it's dealing with very internal, philosophical, cerebral ideas and concepts. And sure, it's got a very high concept way to present them to us, but it's not Game of Thrones. It's got a high budget. It's got big ideas. Like Game of Thrones, it's much more like tactile, whereas Westworld is, again, just much more cerebral. So I really wish that people would stop comparing it to Game of Thrones, because it's not. So let's start with Teddy. Teddy, apparently along with this backstory that Ford kind of plugged in for him, he also created some personal demons for Teddy in his past to kind of overcome while he's on this journey with the Man in Black. And I thought that was really interesting. It provides a neat layer to the Teddy character, but then at the same time, it kind of doesn't matter because we know it's just a plugged-in backstory. Unless it's not. Maybe these things, like, were part of his backstory initially, but then for whatever, like, super convoluted reasons, Ford just kind of blocked his access to those memories in his backstory, right? So, I mean, I really liked it. I liked that we got to see James Marsden go all ham on the soldiers, and he just really, like, flipped a switch. It was kind of cray, but it was awesome to watch, and that was a great fight scene, and explosions and action. It's fun, right? And I haven't really seen James Marsden get to be so, like, serious and into something since, like, that Cameron Diaz movie he did, The Box. That was probably the most, like, real and grounded I've ever seen James Marsden until this point in Westworld. And so I appreciated the performance. I like what we get between the two of them. I like that Teddy is able to surprise the Man in Black, a man who doesn't appear to be able to be surprised, but lo and behold, it's Teddy, and I like that Teddy can be full of surprises, and I think that the Man in Black does as well. Smoke Monster, Man in Black, he finds out that, again, now we have to go back to the idea that the Native American androids are the ones with this kind of mystical, almost religion about, you know, the shades and the maze, and so Teddy explains what the maze is said to be in this episode, and so that was all well and good, but it's nothing that we kind of hadn't already guessed, right? And more specifically and more importantly, and what I'll get to at the end of my review, when he says that he built all of everything around this idea, this concept, this part of it. And I really like that, but again, it's what I was talking about in my last episode discussion, where I was saying I feel like all of Westworld has just been kind of manufactured to be a distraction from getting into the maze, right? But whatever, I really enjoyed the Teddy and Man in Black stuff, and it was nice to see the Man in Black get to have some, like, fun. I realize he's kind of been having fun, but the idea that Teddy could surprise him so, and just that surprise alone, it was nice to see from the Man in Black, because, again, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who can be surprised. Elsie is still Nancy Drewing it up, and it looks like things might have taken a turn for the worse for her at the end of the episode, but she'll be fine, or she won't. You know, she's been kind of the one that I'm watching, like, maybe she'll die. Like, there are a couple of characters I'm like, maybe they'll die. I've kind of had Elsie on the chopping block, but really, she's the only, like, relatively young member of the staff at Westworld, and I think that they will keep her around just because she is a young woman, and she's kind of a proxy for the audience in some sense, but right now, Elsie is trying to get to the bottom of everything, and you know, in my last episode discussion, I said that I thought Teresa was the one doing the satellite tracker-jacker bullshit, and now, since Elsie said that it was Teresa, I'm just thinking it's not Teresa, because if the show tells me something, I think the opposite, right? That's kind of the issue with this show, this kind of mystery box element, like what's in the box, what's in the maze, who's Arnold, It's like once you set up this grand mystery, if it doesn't pay off, we're all gonna be pissed. And a show like this lends itself heavily to the idea of fan fervor and fan theories and all this extra, but when they don't pay off, it sucks. And so I'm hoping that that Teresa is in fact the mole, if you will, but maybe she's not. Because like I said, if the show tells me, I kind of don't believe it anymore. Anyway. Yeah, she tracks and stuff down about Teresa. Not a shit ton of Elsie here, but I like how stick to it she is about things, and that's a good trait to have. Teresa, I did like the interactions that we saw with Teresa in this episode, whether it was she and Bernard breaking off their tryst, or with what happens with Sizemore and her cutting him off, saying that starving artist only works for artists. That was really nice. And I'm still not so sure what we're supposed to think of her character, or, you know, I'll bet she'll be the one to die. That's it. She's gonna die. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. Teresa will die before the end of the season, and I'm looking forward to that. But admittedly, I'm not looking forward to that near as much as I'm looking forward to seeing Sizemore die, because that dude has got to fucking go. But, yeah, what else have we got with the engineers and such? Well, we've got this Hale lady, the woman from the board who has come in to kind of oversee and kind of peek in at what's going on in Westworld right now, and so that's going to be fun. And I didn't go back and look, but if memory serves and other people are right, then if you go to the first episode, she's one of the women on the train who sees Teddy waking up, and she's like, oh, see, look how real they are. I'm pretty sure that that's her. Anyway, so yeah, that'll be fun. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with this character, or if maybe she's expendable, maybe she'll die. I think before we get to episode 9, one of the humans will die at either by the hand of an android or by another human. I'm interested to see how they're going to play up the human-android dynamics as we move further. But on to Maeve. Maeve opens the episode in such a grandiose fashion. She knows what she wants, and she is going to go and get it. I really like the interactions between her and Clementine. I'm hoping that Clementine will start to kind of glitch out and maybe wake up a little bit as well. And again, we can't be so certain that these androids are in fact waking up more than their programming has just been hacked. And we see in this episode that we do have information to suggest that Maeve has in fact been hacked, as well as the other, older models in the park. And so that's something to think on. But Maeve, what she does is she she goes straight for this guy, and rather than giving him off to Clementine, she takes him for herself, because her perception has been boosted, and she's using her perception and her persuasion to get what she wants. Now, the fascinating thing that I found with this particular scene was the idea of what Westworld is and what we've been introduced to this whole time, which is the idea that the guests go in and they just go ham. They just do whatever they want. They go crazy. But in this instance, what we have is, rather than Maeve being victimized by this particular guest, she actually invites this violence upon herself. She pushes all the right buttons trying to emasculate this man so that she can get a violent reaction out of him. And that says something about the androids and about what Maeve is going through right now. She knows what she's in, and rather than the guests coming in and making these decisions for themselves to act out in certain ways, here we have a host genuinely inviting them to act just deplorably. Because when you think about it, like, he was just wanting to, like, get in there and bust a nut.
I wanna fuck.
But he ends up killing her. Do I think maybe he raped her, like, corpse or whatever? I don't know. But the intention wasn't to kill her, but she took it there. She took it to this extreme. And that's fascinating to me because, again, we are seeing this wall between the hosts and the guests be broken down, and Maeve is at the very center of it, it appears. So anyway, she gets herself back to Fix-It Felix and she go about talking about the difference between being a person and being a bot. And I like the idea that she asks him how he knows that he's a human. And he says, I just know, like, I was born and you were made. And it's a really interesting thing to bring up when you're talking about artificial intelligence. Like, where is the line between what is real, what is a soul, what is acceptable as kind of what am I trying to say? Just drawing a line. Is there a line, and where do we draw it, and how thin is that line, especially at this point in the narrative? And sure enough, she convinces Felix to basically tour her around the inner workings of Westworld, and she goes to several different floors and surveys what it is that's happening there. And I found this whole scene just to be gorgeous. Tandy Newton, who plays Maeve, she played it so beautifully. It's like she just woke up and realized that she lives in a nation where, like, Donald Trump has been elected the president or something. She's taking it all in, and it seems so far-fetched, and it's there, it's right there, but it can't be real. And the idea that she sees herself on the screens and she asks how these people have access to her dreams, like, they have my dreams. And I think that's so profound because if you go back to the idea of this being a part of a class system, a caste system of the androids being little more than slaves, then the master puppeteers of Westworld really do, they own your dreams. You're not allowed to have dreams because they belong to us. You have no upward mobility. Everything that you are isn't yours. And I find that to be really beautiful in this episode. Oh, and there was a beautiful part where she found out that she could not, in fact, think for herself. Everything that she was trying to say, it had already been programmed for her. And she totally glitches out when she realizes that she can't think for herself. And that's beautiful, and that's what the show is all about. And I think it's fascinating. But of course, by the end, we have Maeve. She has convinced Sylvester and Felix to completely boost her intelligence, like, to the top. All the way to the top. And it's gonna be really crazy. And I'm wondering if Maeve is, in fact, creating herself into the adversary. Like, if she will lead the charge against these people, or if maybe she'll have her own fun out in the park and maybe not even invite anybody to play with her. I don't know. I'm really excited about Maeve, and I'm just loving what Tandy Newton has done with the character.
Rules are stupid.
I keep seeing these interviews with Tandy Newton, and she talks about how how being Maeve was really kind of empowering and freeing because she talks about there being no clutter. There's no clutter. There's only her programming, and so she doesn't have what you would call baggage, right? She just has a very clear idea of what's going on and how to proceed with that information. She's clever, she's persuasive, and she's perceptive, and now she's super smart. And I just love it. It's really fun. Now, Bernard and Ford, I don't know what I'm gonna do with them, but I do have a new theory about Bernard and Ford. Okay, so in this episode, we see that Ford is, making room for his new attraction, right? And he doesn't want his new attraction to come into Pariah. He doesn't want to get rid of Pariah in order for his new attraction to be up and running. He wants to keep it there. Now, Pariah, we know that clues to the maze are in Pariah for whomever may come across them, right? And so the idea here that I had today was sparked by the family bots, okay? So we have this idea of Arnold, and the story, like the narrative, goes that Arnold and Ford created the park together. Arnold died, and in between that time, he created these robots to kind of be proxies for Ford's family. Now, at first, when Ford was talking about this kind of stuff, I was thinking, were you and Arnold like super sexy together? But then I thought, no, it doesn't seem that way. And the idea that he would create Ford's family out there, but not his own, it's leading me to believe that Ford is in fact an android. I believe that Arnold created Ford, and that Ford was afforded consciousness, okay? I believe that Arnold created Ford as kind of a pet project, and he gave him his cognizance, he gave him his truth, right? Like he made him a person, okay? And what I think happened is because he gave Ford this consciousness, and then he would create this family so that Ford could kind of have some kind of familial bond that was his. And in the picture of Arnold and Ford, Arnold is like the Ford father bot, right? And so I'm thinking that because Arnold created Ford, that he created the Ford father in his own image to kind of reinforce the idea that he is in fact Ford's father. And so what I think is that Arnold wanted to give this cognition to all of the robots, but I don't think Ford wanted that. I think Ford liked being special. Ford likes being God. And I think that Arnold was killed by Ford. Now, where does this come into the whole Bernard's an android theory? Well, it's just like any procreant urge. Like, your father made you eventually get the urge to create life. And I think that Ford created Bernard and gave him consciousness, but not so much consciousness that he would know that he's a robot. I think that Ford wanted something to kind of pass on his legacy through, but I don't think, again, that he wanted to just give Bernard everything that he's got. And when you think about it that way, here's basically what I'm trying to get at. It's very much like God and the Garden of Eden. It's like Ford, he doesn't want to get rid of Pariah, and he can't get rid of the maze because, okay, think about the Garden of Eden. Like, there's the whole garden, but in the middle, there's the tree of life, and there's a tree of the knowledge of good and evil, okay? And so, like, the truth is in the forest, or in the garden, rather. Like, the truth is there. It's right there. And God says, there's the truth. There it is. But don't get that truth. Don't get that truth. I'm going to tell you right where it is, but because it's right there, and I don't want you to get it, I'm going to distract you with all the rest of the garden. The garden has everything else you could want. Just don't go for that truth. So that's what the maze is. The maze is Westworld. We keep being beaten over the head with this idea that you know, this is where you go to find out who you are. Like, this is where you go to change the story of your life. And we hear from Logan, like, we're gonna find out who you really are. And that's what it's about. Like, that's what the maze is. The maze is self-discovery. The maze is self-actualization.
How am I not myself?
How am I not myself?
Myself.
How am I not myself?
How am I not myself? How am I not myself?
How am I not myself? How am I not myself? How am I not myself? How am I not myself?
The maze is Westworld. The maze is an idea. And it's this whole place. It's not like a physical thing where you go through and there's this like mystery box. There is no mystery box, I don't think. I think the mystery box is in your own mind. I think you go through the maze and you find yourself at the end. You find that truth. You find out who you really are. And I think that Dolores has already maybe come to that truth at one point in her history. But I think Ford took that away from her, which is why he says that we're not friends. And when in the last episode, or maybe it was the one before, I think it was last week, but anyway, Dolores said to Ford that Arnold wanted her to help him destroy this place. I think that what she means by that, or maybe without even knowing, is that she was supposed to help usher in all of the consciousness for these bots, for these androids. And I think Ford put a stop to that. I think when he killed Arnold, he like probably reset a bunch of the old models. But at the same time, if Dolores did at some point reach the end of her own maze and discover herself, if you will, and Ford tried to cover it up, he tried to erase that from her, I don't think he was completely able to, and I think that that's where Dolores's real inner conflict stems from. I think she's been covering up for a very long time that she is conscious. And again, it goes back to what I was saying last time. I think that she's doing it for the greater good of all of the other androids. Like the newer models who aren't built like her, who don't have the same kind of build and maybe access to this new kind of consciousness. Because the interesting thing about it is Maeve, we are led to believe, is one of the newer models. Now that still remains to be seen, but I do feel like whatever is happening to Maeve might be completely separate from what is happening to Dolores in respect to this idea of the maze and self-discovery. I think that Maeve is being acted upon by some other force. I don't know. I'm really leaning toward the idea that Bernard has found out what he is, and he has found out what Arnold is, and they have this legacy that, you know, at the end of the day, it's almost like Arnold is his creator. And I think that just as I'm theorizing that Ford killed Arnold, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have Bernard kill Ford in very much the same fashion.
That nigga gonna pay what he owe!
Something about this episode really led me to believe that Arnold created Ford, and that whole family scene is what really did it for me. And the idea that Ford kind of keeps the family out there, and the idea that Ford doesn't want to get rid of the maze completely. It's almost out of duty, out of honor, out of respect for his forebears, for his creator. It's like what Abernathy says in the first episode. He says, I want to meet my maker. And I think that's what we're getting to. And I really just think that there's no like switch. I don't think there's a button. I don't think there's a hatch. I don't think there's anything to be found other than the truth, other than oneself. And that's pretty much all I've got for today, you guys. Hope you're having a great 2016 so far, everybody. Be sure to let me know what you thought of The Adversary in the comment section down below. I'm Preston L. Young. Have yourself a great day today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
sitting on the shelf. He is just a toy, but I turn him on and he comes to life. Automatic joy, that is why I want a coin-operated boy. Made of plastic and elastic, he is rugged and long-lasting. Who could ever ask for more? Love without complications galore.
Follow me, don't it seem like we running to a wall? We'll just try, they come round in the dark like, bro, that's my motto. I got class like a dirty, don't build to last like a dirty. Won't for the most part entertain, just pretending like they got it. No, tear it up, I'm so damn cool. 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 Look at these folks, look at these clothes, look at this dough, look at this gold, look at me vote, look at me then, look at these hoes, these bitches ain't fucking with me, killer. Look at these folks, look at these clothes, look at this dough, look at this gold, look at me vote, look at me then, look at these hoes, these bitches ain't fucking with me. I'm so damn cool, I'm so damn cool, I'm so damn cool.
Think of it as a game. A fun, funny game. Without all the rules, or any of the bothersome winning part. But still, there are sides. You have to choose a side.
My BFF Joe
730.